sword, and great and mighty sword shall punish Leviathan. That great and mighty sword shall punish Leviathan. That crooked serpent, and he shall slay that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. In that day, sing ye to her a vineyard of red wine. I are they to keep it, I will want it every moment, lest any hurt it, I will keep it.
Well, good day. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. Let me just fix this here. Our wonderful camera. Every time I just got to go in and tell it. Why won't it allow me this? There we go. Apparently, you just got to change the exposure to any other number and then put it back to 5, because I didn't really change the thing. I just flipped it. Okay, stop. Okay, sorry. All right, let's start reading. Welcome to Line by Line We're going into our study in the book of Job. The Lord continues. Canst thou draw out Leviathan with an hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Canst thou put an hook into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? Will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? Will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? Wilt thou play with him as with a bird? Or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Canst thou fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears? Lay thine hand upon him. Remember the battle. Do no more. Behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down, even at the sight of him? None is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me? Who hath prevented me, that I should repay him? Whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. Who can discover the face of his garment? Or who can come to him with his double bridle? Who can open the doors of his face? His teeth are terrible round about. His scales are his pride, shut up together as with a close seal. One is so near to another that no air can come between them. They are joined one to another. They stick together, that they cannot be sundered. By his neesings a light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Out of his mouth go burning lamps, and sparks of fire leap out. Out of his nostrils goeth smoke, as out of the seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindleth coals, and a flame goeth out of his mouth. In his neck remaineth strength, and sorrow is turned to joy before him. The flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. His heart is firm as a stone, yea, as hard as a piece of the nether millstone. When he raiseth up himself, the mighty are afraid. By reason of breakings they purify themselves. The sword of him that layeth at him cannot hold, the spear, the dart, nor the habergeon. He esteemeth iron as straw, and brass as rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned with him into stubble. Darts are counted as stubble. He laugheth at the shaking of the spear. Sharp stones are under him. He spreadeth sharp pointed things upon the mire. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. He maketh a path to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. Upon the earth there is not his like. who is made without fear. He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride. And then Job answers again. And that is the final chapter. Well, we have to get through this one first. I don't know. Shall I read it? Because there is a possibility we might get through all this and complete the book today. I don't know. Because like I said, the details... All right, let's just read it anyway, just for the fun of it. It's only 17 verses. 17 lovely verses. Then Job answered the Lord and said, I know that thou canst do everything, and that no thought can be withholden from thee. Who is he that hideth counsel without knowledge? Therefore I have uttered that I understood not, things too wonderful for me, which I knew not. Hear, I beseech thee, and I will speak. I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me. I have heard of thee by the hearing of the ear, but now mine eye seeth thee. Wherefore I abhor myself, and repent in dust and ashes. And it was so, that after the Lord had spoken these words unto Job, the Lord said to Eliphaz the Temanite, My wrath is kindled against thee, and against thy two friends, for ye have spoken of me the thing that is... No, sorry. For ye have not spoken of me the thing that is right, as my servant Job hath. Therefore take unto you now 7 bullocks and 7 rams, and go to my servant Job, and offer up for yourselves a burnt offering, and my servant Job shall pray for you, and for him will I accept, lest I deal with you after your folly, in that ye have not spoken of me the thing which is right, like my servant Job. So Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamanite went and did according as the Lord commanded them. The Lord also accepted Job. And the Lord turned the captivity of Job, when he prayed for his friends. Also the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Then came there unto him all his brethren, and all his sisters, and all they that had been of his acquaintance before, and did eat bread with him in his house. And they bemoaned him, and comforted him over all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him. Every man also gave him a piece of money, and every one an earring of gold. So the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning, for he had 14,000 sheep and 6,000 camels, and 1,000 yoke of oxen, and 1,000 she-asses. He also had 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he called the name of the first Jemimah, the name of the second Keziah, and the name of the third Keren-Happuch. And in all the land were no women found so fair as the daughters of Job, and their father gave them inheritance among their brethren. After this lived Job 140 years, and saw his sons and his sons' sons, even 4 generations. So Job died being old and full of days. I don't know, after this, so you see, it's like, when you read a verse like that, you think it's safe to assume, oh, he lived, like, let's say he was, I would say he'd probably have to be 60 at the beginning of the story. And if he lives another 140 years, he'd be 200. But it could just mean after this, Job lived to be 140. You know what I mean? Which means he would only continue to live another 80 years. Which would make sense in the sense of, if you think of, maybe he was 70, and then he doubled his lifespan. Now that would make sense, since he doubled everything else. Except the daughter, which he tripled. Tripled the daughters. Throw in, it's the baker's dozen of daughters, the baker's dozen, but the extra daughters. Which gives him, what, 7 and 11, 8 and 11, this is a 19 total. Interesting. Didn't mention his wife, though. She wasn't very helpful. The Lord didn't really talk about her. It's probably for the best. I don't know. She, whatever. Obviously, I think she came back, because I don't think he got a new wife. Now, she's quite a remarkable woman there, too, in spite of her failings, if that is the case. Though he might have had to have another wife, because maybe she passed away. All right, so now we talk about Leviathan. And Leviathan's interesting, because like I said, as I read that, I'm like, okay, well, There's no way this is talking about a natural creature. Just because, even if you go to like, okay, alligators with like, they're coming out of the water and their nostrils and there's like a mist. And you say, well, that's the smoke going up out of their nose. And then the flames. And the Lord doesn't know this. God doesn't know that, crocodiles don't breathe fire. I wonder if the NIV, how do they translate it? Oh, I brought up Photoshop. I don't know why. Go away, Photoshop. Thank you. So how's it saying the NIV? That'll be an interesting thing. They call him Leviathan. They don't want it because Leviathan, I believe in Hebrew, they're going to say is the sea monster. It's a mythical. Yeah, in fact, here we go. 1 second. Here's the bit from good old Bible Hub. A wreathed animal, a serpent, a dragon, or Babylon. That's because of the passage I played from Isaiah 27. They would think that has to do with Babylon. The dragon that is in the sea, the serpent. We know from Revelation that, he's that old serpent called the devil and Satan. That all these things, and so what God is talking about here to Job is the devil. He is the most fearsome of God's creatures. He is the king of the children of pride. Of course, he's not talking about some poor animal. And so this is the symbolic dragon that is Satan. He is like a dragon, like a serpent. It's funny, some people, it's interesting to me. When I was young and I was introduced to the concept of like, well, in the garden, maybe the serpent wasn't a literal serpent. That blew my mind. So much so that I don't even think about it anymore as like a big deal. It's like, well, I don't think it was a literal snake. I think, like it says in Revelation, that it was the devil. Taken form as a snake? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe in the story he's a snake. Because it's a story. But in reality, he was the devil. It's in here. Leviathan doesn't breathe fire. But Satan does. So do the God's two witnesses breathe fire. Because, that you can understand in a metaphor. Animals don't have fire-breathing metaphors. Only people do. Because we can breathe fire by speaking fiery words. We can say things that are inflaming. Like either, well, not either. But, stir people up. And also, of course, by the power of the Holy Spirit, I do think it can be literal also. But I doubt it would be actual flames leaping out of your mouth. But I mean, it could literally be words that kill. Just like in Acts, Peter didn't lift a finger against Ananias and Sapphira. He just said stuff to him. And if anything, that is the most, that's a pretty good example of someone, slaying something with the words of their mouth. And it being real. So it's not just symbolic. We certainly know of at least one occasion when it literally happened. Okay, and so the serpent, the dragon, the sea monster. Like I said, I don't think it's referring to a natural animal at all. But, Satan is compared to a natural animal, of course. He's being compared to a lot, so you can think about crocodiles and other large, even sea animals, dangerous things, especially ones that are extinct. There's some true monsters of the deep type stuff. And who knows how much of that's. The thing is, the extinction events that wiped out the dinosaurs, they don't necessarily have to wipe out all the sea creatures. I don't know. We still got big sea creatures out there. No, I'm just saying there might have been holdovers. In fact, that's, the Loch Ness Monster and some of these other creatures. Whenever there have been like living fossils, well, the only I know of one, like the coelacanth, it was found in the deep sea. They thought it was extinct. They thought it was something, it was the Devonian fish. It's like, this is not from our time. Some weird creature from a long time ago, but they still exist. All right, and so, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down. Can you, by your human ingenuity that you use to trap even the most dangerous animals, men do fish alligators, and they fish. They don't usually hunt alligators by fishing, but you could. You could put a hook in and put a fish on that hook and catch an alligator. Or you bet you could. I don't know if it'd be a good idea, but it's certainly not my sport. Animals can be handled, but we can't handle Satan. Satan is beyond your power. He's like, the only reason I don't fear him is because the Holy Ghost dwells in me. And so I don't pay much heed to Satan. I really don't. I used to think it was really important to study up on Satan. And, I took seriously that, we got a major in Jesus and minor in Satan. I do think that, it's understandable why people are so curious about subjects like Satan and the devil, because it's got that, it's evil. It's got that power. He has that mystique about him. And, a lot of times, people blame their problems on the devil. I mean, Job literally could blame his problems on the devil. He didn't even understand that. It was literally the devil that was tormenting him. And so, you can't use your puny human means to deal with the devil. He's not going to play nice with you. He's not going to beg you for mercy. He speaks soft words unto you. Oh, Paul, I'm so scared of you, you little human. He is he's a higher order of being. Maybe archangel class, if that's a class of such things. He's compared like Michael the Archangel, he's approaching to that which is divine. Not there, he's not divine. He wants it, though. It's interesting, like it says about Jesus, that he did not think divinity, to be equal with God, was robbery or to be something to grasp at, right? Satan does grasp at it. He does. He wants to seize on it. He wants to ascend into heaven. He wants to set his throne above the stars of God, to sit on the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. Yes, even in Jerusalem. Because whereas God truly doesn't care about places, Satan does, because we do, and because it's meaningful, and because, in the place you can do the things. In the city where God's name was placed, he can play God most effectively. We make a covenant with thee, not one you can trust in. Just as you can't reason with a predatory animal, you can't reason with the devil, because he doesn't have your interest in mind. He's only interested in himself. He's a high order of evil spirit with psychopathic mindset, the ultimate psychopathic mindset. I mean, he is a villain of villains, the wicked one, the son of perdition. Jesus is the Son of God. He is the son of perdition, the son of damnation. That's what perdition means. In fact, that word perdition in Greek in the New Testament, it is a form of the word apolia, which you may recognize from Revelation chapter 9, where it talks about in the fifth trumpet about Apollyon, the destroyer, which is Abaddon in the Hebrew tongue, which it speaks of in the book of Job. It's just another form of the name. He is the destroyer, the son of destruction. It's another way of saying it. Because that's who's the destroyer? It's the son of destruction. The son of perdition is the destroyer. And so, that brings it full circle. The dragon, the serpent, and there we're talking about the angel of the bottomless pit, which it isn't specifically said that, this is Satan, but I think it is. I think that's pretty reasonable. The angel of the bottomless pit is the king over them. You think Satan has a secondary king he lets hang around? He isn't like that. He wants to exalt himself above all others. All others. You can play with him as with a bird. You can play like little birdie games. And tweet. Bird is a small animal, kind of, again, I don't know how you play with a bird precisely. I'm not sure. Seems like an odd question. If the Lord asked me, I'd be like, well, I used to have birds. It's hard to play with birds. I wonder if it means what it says, though. Maybe that's a bad translation. I'm going to look at the NIV real quick. Verse 5 in the NIV says, yeah, it's can you tame it like a bird? Well, they say make a pet of it, but I'm going to say tame it. And that makes sense of it. Because a bird, you can tame birds, right? You can make them into pets. You can make Satan into your pet. You can tame him, turn him into docile and harmless. No. Will you bind him for your maidens? What do they mean by that? I just assume it meant like, yeah, or put it on a leash for the young women of your house. I mean, render him harmless to the point where you could let him loose with the ladies, the young ladies. Here, young ladies, play with the dragon. I've got him tied up just fine. Don't you worry. You make him your servant? People think they're better to rule in hell than serve in heaven. You serve in hell, too. You serve wherever you go. There's no escape. Except death, if you prefer. Even Satan doesn't rule in hell. Unfortunately for him. Nobody rules in hell. I mean, come on, it's a joke. It's a joke. I'd rather rule in hell. You won't. You'll think about that one again. That's one you're gonna think about. I change your mind about that one. You fill his skins with barbed iron, his head with fish spear. Do you have enough weaponry to take him down? You think if you get enough going, you got him? Lay your hand on him. Remember the battle, do no more. It's an unforgettable experience coming into contact with Satan or with true malevolence. Even human malevolence, you can kind of have, it can be scarring. People have a normalcy bias. They expect people to behave civil and normal. When you encounter true malevolence, like someone who's going to rob you or violate you in some way, it can be shocking and unexpected. Encountering Satan is like that. He will rape you in an instant before you know what's happening. In the metaphorical sense. I mean, he does not wait or hesitate. So I said, well, then who can? No one can. It's like, but with God, all things are possible. I'm wearing the gospel armor. I can quench all the fiery darts of the wicked. He has no arrows to shoot at me. And I have a sword that does hurt him. I don't use my bare hands on the devil, fools. I don't use your human things. You use the sword of the Spirit on the devil, and that sends him packing. I've never encountered the devil where I couldn't send him packing with the word of God. It's like Jesus. He may come back with something else, but send him packing again. He probably figured, it doesn't hurt to try again, And the Lord ain't going to stop him from tempting you. Necessarily. Like I said, he builds fences around us, sure. Often we do have fences about us, just like Job, as Satan describes. Let me say a hedge, actually. None is so fierce that they'll stir him up. I think it's just no one is, it would be foolish. No one is so fierce to do that, meaning like that they'd be willing, I guess. I skipped verse 6, I guess, huh? Verse 9, that was the verse I was looking at, right? I was actually looking at verse 10 because I skipped 9. The hope of him is in vain. Yeah, well, any hope of subduing him is the way they put it there. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him. The fearful, the mere sight, seeing him, encountering him is overpowering. That's one of the things Babylon, all those things were types of Satan. And one of the passages in Isaiah 28 talks about this overwhelming scourge that's going to pass through the land. And it reminds me, it's like when the devil comes and it's God's judgment. And it says, I'm going to bring it up. I just always thought it made, as a general idea, it speaks to me in this sense. Here, I'll show you. All right. Okay. So it's down here, verse coming of death. Verse 16 maybe? That's where I'll start. Well, it says, we have made a covenant with death. Will he make a covenant with you? And with hell are we at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come into us. For we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves. Therefore thus saith the Lord God, behold, I lay in Zion for a foundation, a stone, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a sure foundation. He that believeth shall not make haste. Judgment also will I lay to the line, and righteousness to the plummet. And the hail shall sweep away the refuge of lies, and the waters shall overflow the hiding place. And your covenant with death shall be disannulled. Your agreement with hell shall not stand. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then ye shall be trodden down by it. From the time that it goeth forth, it shall take you. For morning by morning shall it pass over, by day and by night. And it shall be a vexation only to understand the report. I could even keep going. Just because I always think this a lot of times. What am I saying? Okay, let's go back. Well, that Satan comes on like gangbusters, as they say in the old times. I mean, he comes on with all guns blazing. He's not going to come in all quiet and meek and lowly and humble like Jesus did. He's going to come in flashy and trying to convince people he's God. And that experience, some people in the covenant with death and to me, that's like people have these lies they tell themselves. There's all kinds of them that they will be excluded from this thing, that they won't have to face Satan. Everyone's got to face on some level. I mean, the Lord is there to fight for you, but he still comes after you. He came after Job. Are you better than Job? He came after Jesus. Are you better than Jesus? He's coming after you. And that's a fearful thing, or it would be if you did not have the Lord. So let me go back to 6. Shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among them? That's why you're going to eat him up. You're going to make him, again, it's like you're going to just dice him up. He's just easy prey for you, huh? The hope of his in vain. There's no hope. Even seeing him is like, oh no, here it is. That's what I was saying. There's he's too overwhelming. And that's how he will convince the world. And the world's going to wonder after him. It says so. If you thought they were convinced by Dr. Fauci in the pandemic to put masks on, believe me, when Sparkly Boy comes out of the sky, they're going to be ready, lining up for the mark of the beast. Lining up for it. They're going to give it to me now. So verse 10, what did they have here in the NIV? Oh, I don't, once again. All right. No one is fierce enough to rouse it. I would almost put like a dare in there. And then this is the real point. Or maybe none is so fierce that dares stir him up. The dare is not really there. Well, I think what it's saying is basically no one has what it takes. to beat him. So no one is so fierce to dare to try to stir him up. So if no one wants to stir up Satan, being truly confronted with him, well, who then is able to stand before me? You see all the things I've made, and you see Leviathan too, and he's sort of hitting at the heart of the thing. This is about a Leviathan issue, Job. Now, he hasn't said that, but the description of the creature, that can only be part of what he's trying to say, because otherwise it seems to me like it's another animal. It's like, no. Who hath prevented me? I mean, who anticipated? Who came before me? That's what prevent me in the old King James time. It meant to anticipate. Like, we shall not prevent them that are asleep, as it says in 1 Thessalonians, Jesus. But the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout. The rapture is one of those lies people tell themselves that makes them think, I'm not going to have to deal with that. I'm not going to have to deal with the end times. God wouldn't want me to have to deal with the end times. It's like, well, somebody's got to do it. Why not you? Why not you? Why are you superior to some tribulation saints, mythical so-called? And why would it talk about 10 virgins, 5 wise, and 5 foolish? And what did the wise do? They took oil. They got ready. And there's 5 foolish. Where was this great apostasy coming from? Great apostasy? What is that? A bunch of Muslims or something? Or a bunch of maybe it's a bunch of Buddhists committing apostasy from Christianity, huh? No. This is important. Who hath prevented me that I should? Who did something for me first that I got to do something for them in return? And that is the truth. All of our relationship with God is like that for us, human beings. You don't properly measure everything he's given you. And we say, oh, well, people say, oh, look at people suffer, their lives aren't good enough. It's like, well, what about your life? Are you thankful for what you've got? How do you know they're suffering? Well, because they're suffering and I can see it and blah, blah, blah. What if there was no suffering? It was just you. I mean, like literally the suffering you saw was just an illusion. But how you react to it's real. But don't blame God for... God is powerful. He brings all these things into being. You don't even really know what's going on. You don't even know what's real and what's not. The question is, how do you react to the things you're being shown? How do you react to the things you're encountering in life? Because that's going to be the measure of the man. That's going to be the measure. And even then, like I said, just because I do all these good things, right things, does God owe me? No. That's just like, it's like saying, if someone comes to my house and they don't urinate on the walls and defecate in the sink, that they as long as they don't do that, well, you can live here forever. Just because in your first visit, you didn't crap on the walls and smear it all over every place. That was gross, I'm sorry. But my point is, that's what your sin is like. It's filthy. It's this guy. God doesn't want sin in his world. And here we are sinning in it. And so, but if we do the right thing, does he then say, oh, well, I'll reward you with everlasting life for not being a dirtbag? No, it's not. He certainly doesn't owe it to us. I mean, he could be nice and do that, sure. That's the problem with a lot of preaching is people want to make God so nice. He's so nice. You don't even have to do anything he says. Nothing. Just believe in him. And don't do anything he says. Just show it. Just do it that way and prove it. It's insane. I mean, preaching people, encouraging them to do things that will not benefit them. I just flat out will not benefit them. No benefit. This is the best of his answer to Job. Who is able to stand before me? Who has anticipated me that I should pay them back? And who, for whatsoever is under the whole heaven is mine. This is why why do you think I quoted Matthew chapter 20? It's the same lesson. Is your eye evil because I'm good? I'm good is what God says. I'm good. I do good things. I do gracious things. Sometimes I do extra gracious things. You know? I've done you no harm. You know? I never took anything from you that I didn't give first. We owe him our breath. But it's very much the same thing he says. Whatsoever, is it not lawful for me to do what I will with what is mine? The answer is, Job, you belong to me. And if I want to let Satan loose on you, that's just how it is, buddy. Everything belongs to me. But you know what? You said the right thing. That's what I said in the last. You said the right thing. Though, like you said, it's like you don't know what you're talking about on a certain level. You also are right. Yeah, I took away your judgment. It doesn't matter. I'm still more righteous than you. Because I don't owe you your judgment. It's not your judgment. It's my judgment. It's not your life. It's his life. You're just borrowing some. That's a long stomach growl. I will not conceal his parts, nor his power, nor his comely proportion. So I'm not gonna hide how powerful he really is. What is 12? What do they say in the NIV? Yeah, he's more like, I will not fail to speak of Leviathan's limbs, its graceful form, etc., etc. Who can discover the face of his garment? What do they mean by that? Strip off his outer coat. Who can separate his double coat of armor? And I'm pretty sure, by the way, like when God says his scales are his pride, metaphor? You know what I mean? It's like, they aren't literally, even if you're proud in something, your pride is a state of mind. It's not an actual, like, if I say, oh, that car is my pride and joy. Your pride and joy, again, is in here. That's where you're messing up. But anyways, one is so near to another that no air can come between them. I think that's a hyperbole. I don't think that's meant to be literal. And it's certainly, that's where I started thinking, well, this is definitely not an alligator. Definitely not an alligator or any animal I know. There's also this invincibility. It's no animal I know. But the idea is he's got very close, tight protection. You can't, no weapon, human weapons are useless against the devil. They cannot be sundered. By his neesings, a light doth shine. What is a neesing? Wrong one. My neesing. Out of his mouth. Okay, Paul, why don't you get on that other page? Okay, I will. Sneezing. What's that word means? His sneezing? Okay, wait, what's that NIV say? Snorting. Okay, snorting, sneezing, I get it. They're similar types of things, right? Whatever. It might be one or the other. I don't know. But it's definitely, neesings is definitely a word too archaic for us. We don't use that in English. Not in my English, anyways. All right, so the light doth shine, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the morning. Or, possibly referring to the way that the animals. No, because here's the thing. Satan is being compared to an animal that doesn't quite exist, but is like animals we know. It is a sea serpent monster type thing, And but we can look at natural animals that are similar, like alligators, and try to think about the comparisons. as far as like their armor, their scales, and all that. And also their lights shine in the dark. When you shine a light on them, their eyes glow, right? You can see them out in the water. And so maybe that's, like the idea of their glowing eyes, like, being like, like in the morning when the sun starts coming up and it's still dark out, but the light, that's what I was thinking. That's what it says in the NIV. It says the eyes are like the rays of dawn. Hiccups. Yeah, so conceals parts of power come with proportion. The doors of his face, his teeth, open the doors of his face. Again, that's poetic. Again, I think it's saying to get to him, you have to go through all those teeth. Scales are his pride. Again, and so what does that mean? Well, I take it to mean that his pride is his defense. And a lot of times for people, pride is a defense. Like they don't lose an argument because they refuse to admit they've been proved wrong. And their pride is their last line of defense. Just deny you're wrong. Just keep denying it out of pride. I mean, pride can be used like a tool, to boast and to try to, boost yourself among people and increase your, it's a dangerous game. Let another man's lips praise you, is what the scriptures say. And so it's like out of his mouth go burning lamps, sparks of fire, out of his nostrils go smoke, a seething pot or cauldron. His breath kindleth coals, the flame go out of his mouth. I don't know any creatures like that. So I don't know. The flakes of his flesh are joined together. They are firm in themselves. They cannot be moved. So he's like well built. That's all the thing. His heart is firm as stone. Yea, his heart is a piece of nether millstone. Well, obviously not literally true of any natural creature. Of Satan in the metaphorical sense, his heart is hard. It cannot be changed. You're not going to reason with him. You're not going to, oh, can I touch you? Oh, my family, my little ones. He doesn't care. When he raises himself up, the mighty are afraid. By reason of breakings, they purify themselves. What's that mean? Oh, they retreat before its thrashings. Like breakings. Purify themselves, meaning, let's get out of here. They extract themselves. They remove themselves. Like as you purify by washing things away, they wash right out. They wash themselves out. So yeah, we talked about the story. The sword having no effect, the spear, the javelin. Yeah, because those are the human weapons. But the sword of the Lord does pierce him. He esteemeth iron as straw and brass as rotten wood. You can't, there's no weapon we have to take him down. The air cannot make him flee. Sling stones are turned into stubble. They're not, stubble is like that very light, dry vegetation. Like little tiny bits of straw. Highly flammable. And very, easily discounted. Stubble, who cares? He laugheth at the shaking of the spear. Oh, you're threatening me with shaking your spear at me? Sharp stones under him. He spreads sharp pointed things upon the mire. What is that? Okay, he's saying that this is the way, sorry. This is the way they translate the NIV. Its undersides are jagged potsherds, leaving a trail in the mud like a threshing sledge. It makes the depths churn like a boiling cauldron and stirs up the sea like a pot of ointment. It said that. Very similar to the King James. All right. So there he is, the king of pride. He beholdeth all high things. He's a king over all the children of pride. He maketh the deep to boil like a pot. He maketh the sea like a pot of ointment. The deep to boil like a pot. That's interesting. We talk about I don't know what they means by that. But, there is boiling down in the deep sea. That's not like just off the kilter. There are hydrothermic vents down there, That's where hell breaks through, maybe. I don't know. Again, I would tend to think of that in a more symbolic sense of the devil. He doesn't go down and make the sea boil. But what would it mean? Like him in the sea, right? Like if a creature is in the sea, like you ever see those, the whales. Which kind? The ones that fight the giants, is it humpback? No, that's a different kind. Well, anyways, sperm whale, I think. Well, whatever. I think it's humpbacks that actually do this, but some whales will like make a curtain of bubbles, right? To trap the fish. And that might refer to the sea boiling because it might mean bubble. You know what I mean? It makes it like a pot of ointment. Again, I assume that means in the sense of like that you would stir it up. And they were stirring the sea like a pot of ointment. Maybe that's what it means. He maketh the past to shine after him. One would think the deep to be hoary. Wait. One would think the deep had white hair because it's old. That almost seems like a verse that got like lost in translation. Not even in translation, like literally like a letter got switched. It's like, one would think the deep had white hair. That's my new favorite verse. I don't know what it means. It seems to me it means like one would think the deep was old and had white hair and maybe is wise. But maybe the idea that he has lordship over it means it's like, but Satan's even older. Upon earth there is not his like. There's none like him. Not on earth. Who's without fear. He is made without fear. He is not afraid of you, and he is not afraid of God. That's why he does the things he does. He beholdeth all high things, and he looks at high things, and he regards them. He wants to be top dog himself. It says, regard not high things. You got to be, condescend to men of low estate. Well, Satan's more of like I like to... what's the opposite of condescend? To men of high estate. I would rather be served by kings than serve little people. Yuck. He's king over all the children of pride. That's our devil. All right. So thank you for joining me in this study. We're going to wrap it up there. We're not going to go in the next chapter, even when we got 10 minutes left. I'm feeling a little bit, we're going to move on. Tomorrow we'll wrap up the study. We'll read the final chapter again and talk about whatever we think we can use there and maybe do a little recap, and then we'll move on to something else. I'm not sure what we're going to do yet. So until then, remember the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, and he is the fulfillment of the law.
In that day of the wicked sword and great mighty sword shall punish Leviathan, that great mighty sword shall punish Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea.